Today, guys, we're going to be rebuilding the top end of the SSR 110. This is a 2016. This should go for basically all the 110s, 125s, and 140s. They all use the same platform. We're very sorry that we didn't start recording when we took it apart. We kind of just cranked it out, literally 15 minutes, took it apart.
Literally best case scenario too, both gaskets stay in the old cylinder.
Right.
So minimal cleaning.
So we got our old cylinder here. We'll have to pull the dowels out and everything and transfer everything over. Double check that all the O-rings are in place. Yep. We bought the top end kit from eBay for like 50 bucks. Yep. Comes with a new piston, rings, gaskets, and cylinder.
Even valve seals if you're doing them.
Even valve seals if you're doing them. But we got everything off. We marked our timing chain with a Sharpie before we took it apart, left it at top dead center compression stroke. So everything is marked, so when we put it back together, it should go in smoothly. But we're going to get everything prepped. We had to clean up some stuff, get the new rings on the new piston. And we'll show you guys when we get to that step of installing the new piston. So
initiate time lapse now.
rings. The small, really thin ones are your oil control rings. And basically this little corrugated ring separator goes in between those two oil rings. The other two are your compression rings. So you're gonna put this piece on first, and it basically goes in the bottom slot where all those oil holes are.
A little bit, bud. You're out of camera, really. There you go.
So basically put that in first, and then you can drop the first ring below it. And you always want to stagger the ring gaps. They say like 60 degrees apart, but as long as they're not in the same spot, I'm happy with that. And these here oil rings don't have a particular way they go up and down. They're just straight across. So you can just kind of be careful with them and work them around. All right, we're back at her. Here's the piston with the new rings installed. You guys can see the oil control rings with the corrugated piece on the bottom. Then I have you can see it's a darkish colored ring, and then you have a silver kind of outlined ring. From my understanding is the silverish rings always are on the top, and those blacker, darker rings, I guess, are in the middle or your second compression ring. So that's the way I've been doing it, and it's been working out good for me. If anyone else knows, please don't feel free to comment down below. But I'm thinking that's the correct way to do it. Other than that, we're going to install one circlip. I always like to put one side of the circlip in the piston in first. It just makes it easier. You only have to put in one instead of two when you put it on the engine. So we'll put in one side, probably this side, so we can work on that side.
Yeah.
And we'll put the wrist pin through. And yeah, we'll show you that.
The cylinder.
I'm just going to prep up the cylinder, oil up the cylinder, make sure we have all the O-rings and gaskets in place. Put the cylinder on, and then we'll turn it over a few times and check and make sure. Yeah. And we'll show you how to time it, and then we put it back together. So we'll turn the camera on when I have the piston installed. Got it rolling?
Yep. I got zoomed in right on there.
All right, guys. So these, you got to kind of slide the piston down, and then I'll try to look. I kind of look through the wrist pin itself, and then once it's in line, there we go. Should be in. Then we can just install our second
wrist pin in.
And on these guys, it says in. Ow, my head. But on obviously it says in on the piston. That's going to go to the intake side, which is always up on these or towards the carburetor. Picture intake, just intake manifold carburetor. So that's going to be the top side. So you can't really mix it up. It says in.
Most of them usually have a.
Sometimes if they don't have any labels, you'll see a bigger indent and a smaller indent. Well, the bigger indent is for the intake valve. It's always bigger. So you always put that towards the carburetor if they have a big indent and a small indent. But this obviously has very clearly labeled in. So all we gotta do is put our second circlip in, and then we can show you guys the frustrating part of putting the cylinder on without a sleeve. There's a proper way to do it with a cylinder sleeve to compress the rings, a ring compressor, but we've done it before by hand, done plenty of it by hand. We're gonna try to get away with it again. We also have to put this plastic guide, timing chain guide, in there while we kind of put the cylinder on all simultaneously. So that's kind of, well, I think we can actually do it from the top. We can slide it in and we'll just put the bolt in. All right, guys, so I had the camera off while we were fighting with it. It was kind of a little bit of a bastard to get the rings to go in. We did get it. We got the O-rings on the bottom. Make sure when you're doing these, pay attention to all the little O-rings and dowel pins and their locations.
As soon as you take one out, put it back in the other spot and the other.
Exactly. These top end kits are not going to come with new dowel pins and O-rings. So you either got to buy them separate or reuse the old ones. And we got lucky and got the O-rings off, the dowel pins out. So just make sure you take note, draw a picture if you have to of where they go. Make sure you double check when you put that cylinder on. You don't want to take it back off again. So try to get the base gasket, the O-ring.
And we got the cam roller.
Yep, there's a little cam roller guide, timing chain guide, I guess. We got that in there. Luckily, it just kind of fell in.
Yeah, because you got to put it between the chain, and the best thing that I did was you pinch the chain so it holds the gear in there, sort of. And then you just kind of.
So basically, the cylinder's on. We got the bolt started for the base of the cylinder. We got the new the old O-rings in the top of the cylinder here for the head. There's one down there. You guys can see there's a big opening.
One here and one here.
And one there. Yep. And there's actually two dowels, I think.
Yep, one dowel here and one opposite should be.
2 or 3 dowels actually, and there's one little one.
On that side.
There's a thin dowel that goes on this one right here.
Yep.
So just pay attention when you take it apart to note where that stuff is, because it's really important to know where the dowels are. Yep. Next, we're going to try to put the head on. We might actually clean up some of the carbon off the valves first, and we'll update you when we get the head ready to be put on. All right, guys, we're going to put the head on, and I'm probably going to time lapse it, and I'll go over the process at the end. All right, guys, so we got the gear on somewhat where we want it to be. We're just getting the head bolts tightened down. We want to tighten everything up first so it gets everything kind of sandwiched together. That way the gear is easier to get on. There's a lot of tension because the gaskets aren't squished.
Can we tighten these down?
Yeah, you can tighten them down. We're not going to be using a torque wrench on this, guys, but I'm pretty sure the torque will probably be around 100 inch-pounds. Those are 6x1 metric bolts, maybe 100 inch-pounds on those, so maybe 8 foot-pounds. We're just going to go by feel on this one in a nice even manner. But if you guys are going to torque them, I would recommend 100 inch-pounds or 8 foot-pounds of torque. That will be sufficient for those head bolts. The other ones that are tightening down the base of the cylinder and the head, I just use an open-end 10mm wrench and go with shop tight. Not too tight on those. They're Chinese bolts most likely, so I never trust the tensile strength of them. Guys, I'll take the spark plug out, I'll put something down in the plug hole, and we'll turn it the direction of rotation, which is counterclockwise in this case, and we'll watch the strokes. We'll watch the intake valve open, piston goes down, we'll watch it come back up to compression, and just as it comes past compression for the power stroke, we'll check the valves, and there should be a little bit of lash. Also, our dot should line up with the top of the little notch in the head. There's a little bitty notch, and that dot on the cam gear should line up, as well as the T mark lines up with about the 12 o'clock position. If you guys can envision 12 o'clock, a wheelie, that's where the mark should line up. So if that all checks out and we're on the right top dead center compression stroke, when this is all lined up, we should be good. We'll set the valves and we can put it together and we should be done. All right, so basically, guys, we're gonna turn it over.
Going down.
Should be exhaust valve. Okay, so intake valve.
Intake's opening.
Intake's opening.
Intake's closed.
Now put your screwdriver in, your little thing.
Where your no, not here, up there.
Where are we at? On the bottom yet?
Yep, bottom.
Okay, coming up.
Hold on. Yep, coming up.
And right there, top dead center.
Top, yeah.
Okay, so that's all lined up. My mark's lined up. So.
Yeah, you're top.
Right there.
Yep, I can feel it top. Yeah.
Cool. And then after that, we're going down.
Hold on. Turn.
Going down.
Yep, going down.
Okay. Now we should see the exhaust valve opening next.
Yep, exhaust valve open.
And now you come back up. The intake should be opening.
Valve's closing.
Intake's opening.
And you're down.
Back here should have been right there.
Yep, you're right there.
Yep. So right here is where we're gonna set the valves, guys.
Yep.
His intake valve is like no clearance, which is probably just from natural wear. So we're gonna adjust it. We're gonna adjust it to the proper specifications, and we'll show you guys that when it's done. Got the valves adjusted. We adjusted the intake at about 3, and then the exhaust is probably around 5. You probably do 4 and 4 on 4 thousandths on each, but we did 3 and 5. There was absolutely kind of no clearance on the intake valve when we started, so it'll help your valves. You'll see them. These valves looked hot, like they had that burnt color, which could be because of no valve lash. So we got the valves adjusted. Timing is set. Cam gear is tight now. We're just going to install the cam gear cover. And basically all that is that through bolt, the long through bolt, and then this chrome cover. So.
double check in your head.
Yep, I always go through the process in my head.
You always
always.
talk to my owner about it.
Yep. That's going to be it for the engine and parts. We're going to put the pipe on, like I said, cover for the flywheel, and the carburetor. And then we'll have it back together, and hopefully we'll start it up for you guys. And I'll give you any final thoughts that we kind of didn't mention in the video, but we kind of mentioned almost everything. This clutch is getting worn. His clutch is definitely getting worn. Yeah, don't choke it. Just hit it. There we go. He needs the clutch though, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely have to do clutch next.
It's so much more power.
Sweet. First starter after rebuild. Anything leaking? Sounds good. Yeah, it needs a clutch. Whenever you see that slipping feeling, guys, it's always the clutch on these. You have to kick through the clutch to turn the engine over. Same thing happened with my thumb star. Place the clutch, it was 100 times better. A little bit.
Kind of one up.
Yeah.
That clutch